Usually minivans are one of the most boring vehicles you could possibly buy, but this one has something really cool. This is the Toyota Sienna. Usually Toyota and minivans have a lot in common. They're very boring, utilitarian, and basic. They're here to get the job done. They're here to get kids to where they need to go, and Toyota as a brand is to get you to where you need to go. But this time, Toyota has flipped the script on the minivan and on their usual product. See, this time Toyota has built a minivan that's actually interesting, something that's different from everything else on the market. In fact, behind me, I have the Dodge Grand Caravan, and that vehicle is extremely boring. But this one is one that I'm excited to present to you. I hope you enjoy this video. That intro had a lot that I probably need to explain and unpack a little bit. And what I mean by that is, well, the Toyota Sienna as a product for the last 3 generations has been, well, just like everything else. It's offered a V6 front-wheel drive and sometimes an all-wheel drive option. It's offered TVs in the backs, and of course, power sliding doors, seating for 8, decent fuel economy, and of course, affordability. See, most people who need to haul 8 people in comfort probably want something like an Expedition or a Wagoneer or a Cadillac, but don't want to spend the money on it. And that's where the minivan makes a great choice, because this is an affordable vehicle that can haul 8 people and does an amazing job doing it. It's comfortable on road trips, it hauls everybody, but just from the looks, you can tell this one's different. Now, these headlights are swooping and angular and sharp, telling you that this is kind of more sporty, something different from what you usually see. We've got a blue badge revealing that this is hybridized, which, if you're not familiar, Toyota's hybrids always use the synergy drive, and they almost always have a blue logo. So right away, Toyota gave us a hybrid minivan, but they didn't just give us a hybrid minivan as an option like a lot of brands might do. They actually made it standard. This is the only powertrain that you can get, and because of that, this is the only minivan on the market that gets 36 miles to the gallon, both city and highway. And that's something that makes this thing truly unique and different from every other minivan on the market. Yes, there is the Pacifica plug-in hybrid, and it does get similar gas mileage, but it's a plug-in hybrid, not a true synergy drive hybrid like this is. You see, the difference is the plug-in hybrid offered from Chrysler, you have to plug into a wall, let it charge, then you get about 30 miles of range, and then you have to use your gas component. And when you're using the gas component, you don't get good fuel economy. But with this, it's different because this runs and operates and is usable just like a regular gasoline car. You put gas in it, you get the oil change, you get your air filters done, and that's about it. There's no sacrifice with this synergy drive system, only benefits. The other big benefit is that this is offered with all-wheel drive, an electric motor in the back giving you all-wheel drive. Not only is it a good all-wheel drive system, but it's an efficient all-wheel drive system. You see, most vehicles, when you option all-wheel drive, have a fuel economy downside of 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 or 4 mpgs to get that all-wheel drive. This vehicle with that all-wheel drive sacrifices nothing to get that all-wheel drive. But not only have they offered you a hybrid standard, they've priced it affordably and aggressively. See, this is a 2-year-old vehicle with 30,000 miles inside of my used inventory, but it's only priced at $38,000. Under $40,000, you can haul 8 people, and this one is fairly well equipped. This is the XLE trim that we have, and this one has Softex leather interior, power doors on both sides, a roof rack, a sunroof, and even Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as Toyota's full safety suite, giving you adaptive cruise, lane keep, and everything else. So, with all that being said, talking about the front end styling, I've pitched it a little bit, but you can see our full LED reflector headlights. Those come standard on every trim level. This one does have ultrasonic parking sensors along the bottom, as well as your radar cruise control sensor. There is a camera up behind the windshield. And then, of course, we do have a nice low chin. Now, I say nice low chin, this is what gives us the fuel economy. A lot of people will look at this vehicle and say, oh, that's way too low of a chin. It's going to get hung up. It's not a utilitarian vehicle. And to a point, you are correct. If you needed to take this out to your hunting camp or something like that, this probably wouldn't be suitable for that. You maybe have 6 inches of ground clearance here. But keep in mind, almost 40 miles to the gallon, under $40,000, and it can still haul 8 people comfortably. That is a recipe for success that I'd like to get behind. So naturally, any minivan needs to haul both people and things, and the Sienna is definitely capable of that. You see, we got a power liftgate back here. It actually has a kick to open feature, which is really nice that you can use all the time. This one, like I said, is not the top of the line trim level. This is the XLE trim level, which is 1 step above from the base and about 2 from the top. There's only about 4 or 5 trim levels. Back here, we do have, this is actually the 8th seat. So this is removable so that you can have 2 captain's chairs, or you can do a bench across. We're just gonna put this over here to the side for now. But these rear seats, just like every minivan, there's a nice big open trough down in the bottom here where you can store a ton of stuff, because not only is it important to haul 8 people, but it's also important to haul 8 people's worth of stuff. And so this minivan does it. But when you need more of a utilitarian, practical minivan, you also have the option to quickly fold these seats with the pull of a switch, and bam, now you have a flat load floor. And you can push the second row seats. You can't remove them like in a lot of minivans, and you can't store them in the floor like some of the Chrysler products, but you can push them all the way forward and provide yourself about 7 feet of room all the way up to the front. And this one is optioned with the optional spare tire. You just remove this panel, and it's tucked away right here inside of this body panel. You kind of don't even know it's there unless you, of course, know about it. But yeah, overall, the cargo space is extremely usable, and this third row is really comfortable. It allows you to recline both sides of the seats if you want. There's USB, there's cup holders, there's air vents, and there's windows on both sides. There's really no downsides to back here. The only thing I would say is a downside, that if you wanted to get a tow hitch from the factory, you have to get the special off-roady Woodlands edition. Now, I will say the Woodlands edition is a neat option because it gives you a 1.5-inch lift, as well as that all-wheel drive that we talked about a little bit earlier. And of course, the tow hitch, I believe it's rated to tow 3,000 pounds. I'll put it on screen if it's correct. But that's a pretty decent towing figure from a hybrid, almost 40 miles to the gallon minivan that can haul 8 people. Let's go climb into that third row and show you exactly how comfortable it is right now. So I know I quickly mentioned these second row seats, but I quickly wanted to also show you how those seats move and exactly how they work. Now, this is the kick to open feature, which is an interesting feature that's come out over the last few years, but like I just showed, it's sometimes unpredictable. You saw me kick the first time, it completely missed it, and then I kicked the second time a little slower, a little more swooping, and you saw it work. Now, that does, of course, require the key fob to actually be near this. For example, if you're a little kid coming up to the car and mommy's still inside the house, well, it's not actually going to kick to open. You're still going to have to pull on the handle, or, of course, use the buttons on the key fob. Now, looking at these second row seats, you get a lever here that will fold the top of the seat forward. And when you do that, this whole thing slides forward, allowing you to get into the third row. But, of course, I also wanted to show this is how far forward the seats go. So everything past that could be cargo if you needed to haul something very large. Now, climbing in is a fairly simple ordeal. The floor is nice and low, the door is nice and wide, and of course, when you slide the seat, you've got a ton of room to actually get back in here. But how comfortable is it now that we're actually in here? So now I'm actually in the third row of the Toyota Sienna, and there actually is room enough for 3 adults back here, which is surprising. A lot of vehicles in this class range make this third row more of a penalty box than anything, but Toyota's done a good job. I've got a USB-C and a USB-A right over here. I've also got air vents up in the roof. I've got a medium-sized cup holder and then a tiny cup holder over here, as well as a cup holder over there. So that's a total of 2.5 cup holders back here, 2 USBs. There's windows on each side. You can actually, in the higher trim levels, get a little shade for even these third rows. There's some in the second row already, but it would be nice to see on the XLE. And then, of course, air vents and a light back here. So as far as the third row comfort goes, I would say it's fairly decent, and I would have no problem doing a long trip back here. Okay, so now here I am in the second row of the Toyota Sienna. In full disclosure, I have slid these second row seats all the way back and, of course, reclined them a little bit to a more comfortable position. But you can see I've got plenty of leg room. In fact, even when I slide it forward, for example, when I go here, which would be tons of room for the third row, I still fit, which is pretty comfortable. And this is with the middle seat removed. You saw it back in the cargo area, but it does fit right here for another person. But when it's not here, there's a little plastic kind of landing pad that you can step on to actually get into the third row. There's also a set of cup holders here, which is really convenient. But if the seat is there, you still have 2 cup holders over here. And because this hybrid minivan doesn't require any drive shafts or big humps in the way, you get a huge flat open floor, not only making the interior feel comfortable, but actually being really open and comfortable. As far as amenities go, this vehicle is very interesting because we've actually got a 4-zone climate. You've got a driver, passenger, and then a driver rear, passenger rear. So all of that's controllable through this little panel right here, which makes it nice. We have the sunroof up front, and you can even get a nice big TV screen here if you wanted it as well. Looking at the doors, I told you about the second row shades, but they roll up, make the light get out of the little kid's eyes, and then these windows do roll down fairly far. And if you look at the bottom, we've got a bottle opener. One of the things I loved about these minivans when I was selling them over in Morgan City Toyota was these big, huge handles that they have. There's also little push buttons, as well as you can just use the handle. So opening these doors is absolutely no problem. You can do it through the key fob, you can do it through the door itself, you can do it from the buttons up front. These doors are just super easy to open, and they give you tons of different ways to open them. And so overall, the second row, I'd say extraordinarily comfortable, definitely passed the test. There's latch points, nice and available pretty much everywhere. It does tell you that you should not put a car seat in this middle piece here. which I think is probably a good idea, being that that seat's removable. And I forgot to mention while I was in the third row, but there actually is latch points in that third row, so you could put 4 latch car seats in here if you needed to, which is just that much better to know that you can do if you have a large family or a bunch of little kids. And speaking of the window rolling down, I did want to quickly point out, like, a lot of reviewers hate that the windows don't roll all the way down, including myself, but when you look at the shape of a minivan, you have to have the cutout for the wheel well. And so, quite frankly, with this large glass, you can't really store the window anywhere. So I totally understand from an engineering perspective why they can't go all the way down. And I think Toyota's done a good job giving us just about that much glass, and it's overall really comfortable. While we're still back here, I did totally forget to mention that there are 2 USB points back here. We've got a USB-A and a USB-C right on the back of this nice center console that says Sienna right next to it. And of course, seat back pockets on each side, because Toyota doesn't skimp out, especially not in their minivan. So here we are in the front seats of the Toyota Sienna, and this space is extraordinarily nice. Now, we've got the blue start button because, of course, this is a Toyota hybrid. They want you to know that it's a Toyota hybrid. And looking at the gauges, it is a very basic Toyota gauge. Of course, it's going to beep at me because I don't have my seatbelt on. But we've got a very basic gauge. On the left, we've got our hybrid. It's got a charge, eco, and a power, letting you know exactly what mode this hybrid is in. And then, of course, a digital display in the middle. This one, of course, has 30,000 miles on it. It's currently in EV mode, which means the engine is not running. And then on the right, we've got our speedometer with our fuel as well as our coolant. And then, of course, you can pull up any of the gauges you want digitally through that center display. Of course, this vehicle is equipped with Toyota's full safety sense technology. So that means adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring. And then, of course, we've got automatic high beams. Now, there are some quick buttons over here I wanted to point out. You do have a quick button to turn off those power doors, as well as your fuel door opener. And then, of course, your hood release. Over here, we've got our power windows. Of course, they're all automatic, being that this is a Toyota. We do have our power locks as well as power mirrors. And then on the steering wheel, buttons everywhere, nice big Toyota badge right in the middle. Some very basic Toyota interior stuff if you're used to a normal Toyota, or a modern Toyota, I should say. And then over in this center display, you just heard the engine kick on. Over in the center display, we've got a 9-inch Apple CarPlay Android Auto enabled with satellite radio, as well as AM, FM, all the basic stuff. And then both of these seats are power and heated. One of the things I love about the Sienna is this huge shelf that you get across the dash. Just allows you to store a whole bunch of stuff. And this does have the bridge console, which means you could put a diaper bag or whatever you need down here. There's even a 12-volt down there along with some cutouts so that you can store stuff. And then this flips back. You have a total here of 4 cup holders, so definitely room for it. And then drive modes. There's even an EV mode button with your electric parking brake as well as auto brake hold. And then behind that, you open this up and you have a nice big storage cubby with a USB-C, a USB-A, and then, of course, even more on the back of here. So, as far as this interior goes, overall, extraordinarily nice. I did forget to point out, up here at the top, we do have a little kids wide-angle mirror so you can see everybody back in the rear, as well as the buttons for the side doors and the trunk release. These, of course, flip down. They've got LED lights in them. They flip out. They slide, so you get plenty of coverage. And then the mirror is an auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink garage door opener inside of it. The shade on this sunroof is just a manual shade, and it does, of course, tilt and slide. I think the next place we should go is underneath the hood and talk about the powertrain on this Toyota Sienna. So now here we are underneath the hood of the Toyota Sienna, and this is a very familiar powertrain. This is the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder that Toyota puts paired with its e-CVT. And I told you about the e-all-wheel drive a little bit, but this total produces about 250 horsepower and about the same torque. So overall, it's not a power beast, but what it is a economy beast, because this will do 36 miles to the gallon, both city and highway. And like I mentioned, in the Woodlands edition, you can tow up to, I believe, 3,000 pounds. So this powertrain is definitely adequate for moving this much people, this much things, and definitely it's Toyota. It's reliable. This is the same engine that we have in the regular Camry, and this is the same hybrid powertrain that we see in vehicles like the RAV4 hybrid. So we know that it's tried and true. We know that it's been out a while, and you don't have any concerns about reliability. And like I said, it's basically no downsides, and it's all benefit because, like I said, you can haul 8 people's worth of things and get that awesome 36 miles to the gallon. So there's really not a whole lot to talk about. As far as maintenance items are concerned, there are 2 separate coolant tanks over here, one for the electrical battery system, one for the actual engine. Of course, your high pressure coolant on the back of the radiator, an oil dipstick, all of your intake on this side of the motor, exhaust on the back side of the motor, your e-CVT, your air intake box with your air filter, washer fluid right here, and then brake fluid, along with some fuses and relays. Now, with that being said, for those of you concerned about hybrid because maybe you've never had one, the federal government doesn't want you to be scared, which means they require all manufacturers in the U.S. to offer at least a 8-year 100,000 mile hybrid vehicle powertrain warranty. But one of the great parts about Toyota is they actually went above and beyond, and they do a 10-year 150,000. Now this one's at 30,000 miles and it's 2 years old, so that means you currently have 8 years or 120,000 miles from the date of purchase on this vehicle for the whole hybrid powertrain inside of this vehicle, and that is something to be proud of. Well, what do you guys think? Is the Toyota Sienna the coolest, most different minivan that you're going to rush out and buy? Well, if so, this one is currently for sale, and you can, of course, get it from me, Austin the Car Guy at Terrebonne Ford. My information is down in the description. But you can also order one of these through your local Toyota store or go through the used market, use a tool like Car Gurus or Auto Traders, any single one of those, and find one of these vehicles near you. But there are some things that you should know about this hybrid minivan. For example, we talked about towing a little bit. If you don't get that Woodland edition that we talked about, the towing figure does go down to an abysmal 1,500 pounds. So if you are somebody who plans on towing something maybe in that 2,000 pound range, you are going to exclusively be looking at that Woodland edition. It's something that I hope Toyota changes. The other thing is that interior display, I forgot to mention it while we were inside, but that is the older style Toyota infotainment. They do have a newer cloud-based infotainment with profiles that save to the vehicle. And so it's one of the downsides on this vehicle that it's still running that older infotainment. And so if you're somebody who really cares about having wireless Apple CarPlay or wireless Android Auto, or even that cool cloud-based connected nav that they offer through Drive Connect, this vehicle is not currently available with it, even in the 2024 model year. But those are really all the downsides to mention on this vehicle. With that being said, what did you guys think? How was my review? Make sure to leave it down in the comments. What vehicles do you guys want to see on the channel next? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to go like on it down below, as well as if you're enjoying the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell. If you hit the notifications bell, it'll help you actually get notified. Make sure that you watch, hit the notifications bell, and of course, stay tuned for more videos because of course we're planning on bringing you more content. We're planning on going to car shows, making sure that we're bringing you the newest, latest, greatest stuff just like this. So thank you guys so much for watching and have an amazing day. Now, for those of you that actually stayed this long, you know that it's late video lighting nerds time, which means we're going to go around this vehicle and check out the low beams, high beams, fog lights, and everything on this vehicle. Very candid blooper style. It's actually become my favorite part of making these videos, if we're being honest. So low beams, fog lights, let's see what they look like. So there is our low beam headlight right there, and then of course below we've got a fog light. Go check out the tail lights real quick. Hopefully you can see them. I'll go over to the shady side. So these are, of course, LEDs, I believe. Oh no, that's an incandescent bulb right there. So yeah, no LEDs, all incandescent on the tail lights. And let's turn on the high beams and see what those look like. All right, I think they're on. Let's see. Yep, there is your high beams. So there you go, late video lighting nerds. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Have a great day and thanks for watching.